Hello and welcome! Today I have been requested to review The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening for the Nintendo Switch. For me, the DX version of Link's Awakening was not only my first Zelda game, but also my favorite. And when Nintendo announced that it was going to remake it for the Nintendo Switch, I was ecstatic and got it as soon as it was available. However, despite my enthusiasm about the game and as much as I enjoyed it, I never once felt the need to replay the Switch version since I first completed it. And I wanted to take this opportunity to see why. Today's video is sponsored by 16-Bit Store. At 16-Bit, we pride ourselves in our designs and the quality of our printed products, from our display stands to our styluses, our cases, shells, and more. Explore our selection at 16bitstore.com today and get 15% off your next order with offer code 16bitreview when you order 2 or more items. I know that I typically view the games that I played as a kid with rose-tinted glasses, but even with them on, I can appreciate just how well Link's Awakening on Switch turned out as a remake. It doesn't feel like the game was slapped together with a limited budget or development time, unlike other recent remakes on the Switch. It feels like how I always imagined Link's Awakening should have always looked, with models, overworld texture, music, and sound effects all sewn together to make this both look and feel like the Game Boy original, while also having its own unique and beautiful identity to call its own. From Maple Village to Mystery Woods, the Catfish's Mall, and Telltale Heights, this game is a breath of fresh air for a game which honestly has long since gone stale for me. But despite how refreshed this game feels, the gameplay is shockingly close to the original. Excluding the well-documented performance issues, which doesn't really bother me, my muscle memory isn't letting me down for both the dungeons and their boss fights. And for what is new, honestly mostly feels as if it could have been part of the original game. There's just so much to like about this port. I love how, despite the game being in 16:9, the Game Boy's 10:9 aspect ratio is still respected wherever possible. But no matter how skilled you are as a developer, changes needed to be made for this nearly 3-decade-old game. Some for the better, and some not as much. I feel that the best changes here was the quality of life improvements which were added. The controls will be the most apparent to returning players. Gone is the ever-present item switching, and now obvious items like swords, shields, bracelets, and Pegasus boots are mapped to the Switch's many new buttons, with the remaining 2 custom item slots for the rest. I do kind of wish that the Rock's Feather was mapped to the A button, as it was a well-used item, but I understand why they didn't opt for it. They also made the game easier for new players, since they can now find optional glass jars that can be used to catch now fairies. It's a nice addition that doesn't feel out of place for a Zelda game. As for the changes with the gameplay, it usually just culminates to, it's fine. From the upgraded trendy shop and fishing minigames to the added secret shells throughout the game's world, and so many more little alterations that honestly I either didn't notice it or just really didn't care. However, what I personally cannot ignore the removal of is the camera shop. Back on the Game Boy Color, the camera shop and its mousy photographer was a way to get people to buy the Game Boy printer. And while it never convinced me to buy one, I did enjoy seeing the photographer throughout my adventure, since it added depth to an otherwise flat game. However, on the Switch version, they replaced it with Dompe's Shack, which lets you make your own Zelda dungeons. I was really hoping this would be like a Mario Maker-esque thing, which lets you make your own dungeons or even Zelda game and share them online. But nope! This is a one-room placer thing where you have no control over enemy placements and you just have control of where prefab rooms go. When I first played through the game, I gave it a chance, really hoping that it would be more. But I was so underwhelmed and disappointed by it that when I replayed this game around, I actively avoided that area of the map. And while Dompe's Shack isn't really the reason I don't want to replay this game, I do feel that it is a symptom for the greater reason for why I don't want to replay it. While this is an amazing looking and sounding remake, there's nothing here that really makes it stand out against the Game Boy games. At its best, it's a pretty and arguably better controlling version of the original, and at its worst, it takes away things that I really enjoyed about the originals. However, that just might be me with my rose-tinted glasses. Or perhaps it's just my expectations from other remakes from third-party developers like Activision. And I might just be deflecting. Perhaps my disappointment from this game comes from its price. When I got this game, it cost as much as Breath of the Wild did when it was new. And I know, as great of a game as this is, it doesn't have half the content that Breath of the Wild does, nor the replayability. But I don't know, maybe this is just what Nintendo feels a remake is worth. This isn't the first time that they've done it, and game development isn't cheap. But regardless of my personal preferences and tastes, I do need to look at what is here. And what this is Link's Awakening on the Nintendo Switch. A fantastic game, regardless of what platform that you play it on. I would still prefer the DX version since it has everything that I like in it. But I know there's a lot of people out there that can't look past the pixelated Game Boy graphics or its limited controls. And if that's you, then you should probably get the Switch version, as it is a much nicer experience to go and replay. But if you can tolerate the limited graphics, or you're willing to at least get the game for cheap on the eShop while it's still there, then I'd recommend that version instead. But anyways, thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you have yourself a good day, and as always, take care.